the Chamber and those who are joining us online this afternoon. This meeting has been held remotely and also in person, and will be filmed and recorded for live and subsequent broadcast available through the Council's website. The Council is the data controller under the General Data Protection Regulations and Data Protection Act of 2018. We broadcast and record Council meetings to fulfil our public task obligation to enable members of the public to observe the democratic process. Data collected during the process will be retained in accordance with Council's published policies, available through the Council's website. Members of the Council are reminded that they should follow the Council's established meeting protocols, including around the use of the chat facility, and that comments made in the chat facility are visible to all participants in the meeting, which may include members of the public who have also received invites to the meeting. Item number 1 in the agenda this afternoon are apologies and declarations of interest.
Provost, we have apology for absence from Councillor Law, Councillor Robertson and Councillor Wilson. We'll now move to an attendance roll call before proceeding to declarations of interest. And the following members please indicate if they're present at the meeting, either in person or remotely. Councillor Armstrong. Present in the chamber. Councillor Brennan.
Present remotely.
Councillor Brooks.
In chamber.
Councillor Cassidy. Councillor Cassidy. Councillor Clopperty.
Present in chamber.
Councillor Crowther. Councillor Curley.
Present in chamber.
Councillor Daisley.
Present remotely.
Councillor Hellier. Councillor Hellier.
Present remotely.
Thank you. Councillor Jackson.
Present in the chamber.
Councillor McKay.
Present in chamber.
Councillor McCormick.
Present remotely.
Councillor McGuire.
Present.
Provost Mackenzie.
In the chamber.
Councillor McVeigh.
In chamber.
Councillor Moran.
In the chamber.
Councillor Nelson.
In chamber.
Councillor Quinn.
Present remotely.
Councillor Reynolds.
Present remotely.
Are there any declarations of interest?
Councillor Cassidy is present to take it.
Remember that.
I've just messaged Councillor Cassidy and he said that he had came in to say that he was here, but I can see that he's no longer on the screen, so I don't know if he's left to rejoin.
Are you with us, Councillor Cassidy?
I think he's rejoining.
I'll leave it to the admin staff to watch for Councillor Cassidy coming. I think that's perhaps in the item 2 in the agenda is the minutes of the meeting of the Inverclyde Council committees, subcommittees, panels, and boards. The General Purposes Board on the 11th of June, 185 to 186. Councillor Jackson, please. Thank you. Is there anybody otherwise minded? Thank you. Inverclyde Council on the 12th of June, 187 to 193. I'll move that is a true and proper minute. Is anybody otherwise minded? Thank you. The Special General Purposes Board on the 19th of June, 194. Councillor Jackson.
I'll move as a true minute, please.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. And the Audit Committee on the 26th of June, 195 to 196. I'll go to Councillor Curley.
Move this as a true record, please.
Thank you, Councillor Curley. The special meeting of the Environment Generation Committee, the The minutes for this have already been approved at the special council on the 4th of September, and that is for information. The planning board on the 6th of August, 200 to 205, Councillor McVeigh.
That's a true record, Provost.
Thank you, Councillor McVeigh. Policy and Resources Committee on the 12th of August, 206 to 208, Councillor Moran.
Provost, I move it's a true record.
Thank you, Councillor Moran. The General Purposes Board on the 13th of August, 209 to 210, Councillor Jackson.
Yeah, I'll move it's a true record, Provost.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. The appointment panel is shortlisting for the Chief Financial Officer held on the 20th of August, page 211. Councillor McCabe.
Yeah, I move the minutes to record, Provost.
Thank you, Councillor McCabe. The Social Work and Social Care Scrutiny Panel on the 26th of August, 212 to 214. Councillor Brennan.
I'll move it as a true record, Provost. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Brennan. The Special Environment and Regeneration Committee at 2 p.m. on the 28th of August, 215 and 216, and also the Environment Regeneration Committee on the same day, 217, 219. Councillor McCormick for those 2 minutes.
I move the minutes to record, Provost.
Thank you, Councillor McCormick. The Education and Communities Committee on the 2nd of September, 220 to 225, Councillor Property.
I'll move these as a true minute, Provost.
Thank you, Councillor Property. And the appointment panel interviews the Chief Financial Officer, 3rd of September, 226, Councillor McCabe.
I move the minutes to record, Provost.
Thank you, Councillor McCabe. The Planning Board on the 3rd of September, 227, 228, Councillor McVeigh.
Maybe it's a true record, Provost.
Thank you, Councillor McVeigh. And the special meeting of Inverclyde Council on the 4th of September, 229 to 231. I'll move that that's a true and proper minute. Is there anybody otherwise minded? Thank you. The Audit Committee on the 9th of September, 232 to 233. Councillor Curley, please.
I move this as a true record, Provost.
Thank you, Councillor Curley. And the General Purposes Board on the 10th of September, page 234. I'll go to Councillor Curley again.
I move this as a true record, Provost.
Thank you, Councillor Curley. The Grants Subcommittee on the 15th of September, 235 to 248. As I was the only person who sat through the whole meeting, I'll move that as a true and proper minute. Is there anybody otherwise minded? Thank you. The Policy and Resources Committee on the 16th of September, 249 to 253. Councillor Moran.
Provost, I move it's a true record.
Thank you, Councillor Moran. And the Local Police and Fire Scrutiny Panel on the 18th of September, 254 to 256. I'll go to Councillor Moran.
Provost, I move it's a true record.
Thank you, Councillor Moran. Item number 3 in the agenda is on page number 1, is the Chief Social Work Officer Annual Report 2024-25. Members of Inverclyde Council asked to note the content of the Chief Social Workers Officer's Annual Report, which will subsequently be submitted to the Office of the Chief Social Work Advisor to the Scottish Government. Earlier this afternoon, members had the opportunity to hear the report in full from the Chief Social Worker, Mr. Hines, and were able to ask questions. I'll go now to Mr. Hines to present his report, and thereafter any member who wishes to do so will be able to raise comment or questions. Mr. Hines, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Provost. I'm pleased to present the annual Chief Social Work Officer report today, which provides an overview of social work and social care activity in Inverclyde during 2024-25. The role of the Chief Social Work Officer is to provide strategic and professional leadership in the delivery of social work services within a framework of statutory duties and powers to meet best value and professional standards. As a registered qualified profession, social workers have a unique, challenging and vital role to protect and respond to people in our communities, to work on multiple practice standards and an increasingly complex legislative environment. To summarise, the full range of social work and social care activity over the year is always challenging. However, it has again been characterised by strong relationships, meaningful engagement with people in our communities and our key partners. This remains fundamental to how services are developed and delivered within the context of ongoing high demand and complex needs, alongside capacity challenges and significant financial pressures nationally. Governance arrangements, resources and workforce matters are included within the report, as well as considering future challenges and also opportunities locally and nationally. The report is an important opportunity to acknowledge the significant commitment and dedication of the social work and social care workforce, who, along with health colleagues in the Health and Social Care Partnership, continue to make a real difference to the communities of Inverclyde. Members are asked to note the report, which, as Provost says, will thereafter be submitted to the Office of the Chief Social Work Advisor to the Scottish Government, following which it will form part of a national review of similar reports from other areas.
Thank you, Mr. Hines. Does any member wish to ask Mr. Hines a question or comment on his report at this time? Yeah, hand up online. Francesca, Councillor Brennan, please.
Thanks very much, Provost. I don't have any questions. The report was really clear and comprehensive, and thanks very much to Jonathan Hines and colleagues for putting it together. And as you said, we had the chance earlier to get an even more in-depth briefing, but it was just to pass on thanks to colleagues in social work for putting it all together and for all the fantastic really complex work that they do during the year, and to just give appreciation for everything that they do to support elected members and understanding the complexities of the work they do, and for everything they do for the most vulnerable people in our communities. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Councillor Brennan. Councillor Armstrong?
Thank you, Provost. Yes, just much like Councillor Brennan, I don't have any questions. I just wanted to publicly thank all the staff involved, particularly our Chief Social Work Officer, in putting together this report, and to put on record how valued the staff are who work in social work and social care by our group, and I'm sure everyone across the council. I just want to formally thank them. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Armstrong. Is there any other member wishing to comment? Can we agree to note the report on page 1? Thank you. Thank you, members. And thank you, Mr. Hanks. Item 4 on the agenda is the update on the Inverclyde Task Force. A report by the Chief Executive. Chief Executive.
Through you, Provost. The report before you provides an update on the activity of the Inverclyde Social Economic Task Force. The task force has met 12 times with support from both UK and Scottish Government ministers, with current attendance from Mr Lockhead and Ms McNeill. In 2023, Scottish Government officials sought a list of projects. In effect, Inverclyde's ask of government, and a £70 million shopping list was provided for government's consideration for projects at Kilburn, Port Glasgow, an investment zone, the A8, Clune Park, Port Glasgow, as well as skills and fiscal power for Inverclyde. At its meeting in July, discussions focused on a way forward. These are set out in paragraph 4.1 of your papers, with political meetings taking place twice a year and officers meeting in the intervening period. The 4 themes of the task force, Provost, remain the same: business premises, skills and housing. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Mr Jillison. Are there any questions from Mr Jillison? Councillor McVeigh, please.
Yeah, thank you, Provost. I do have a couple of questions for Mr Jillison, but firstly, I think it's perhaps disappointing with the year in. They haven't had any investment via the task force, and I think it would be helpful and useful if we could maybe hear from the members of the task force, Councillors Cully and McKay, maybe perhaps give us a brief summary of how the last years have went, and maybe how they see things progressing if Council approves the proposals in this report. That's okay, Provost, and asking you about that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McVeigh. Chief Executive, are you at liberty to disclose anything? Councillor McVeigh should ask it.
Through your Provost, Inverclyde has benefited from funding from UK government over the lifetime of the task force. I draw members' attention to the Levelling Up Fund, as well as what was previously referred to as the Towns Fund, as well as the recent announcement last week in respect of the additional £1.5 million. In terms of the specific ask that we made in the £7 million, the Councillor McVeigh is perhaps asking about, we've had no commitment from either of the governments in respect of that ask for us.
Thank you, Mr. Jimson. Councillor McCabe?
Yeah, I'm happy to respond to the request from Councillor McVeigh. And I think at the level of the ultimate purpose the task force was set up for, we haven't achieved the outcome. And that was to basically persuade the Scottish Government and its agencies to make Inverclyde a priority and to allocate funding from within existing budgets for Inverclyde. But I think it has been a useful forum for us to bring a focus on Inverclyde, both at a UK government level, a Scottish government level, and a regional level through the Glasgow City region. And I do think indirectly the task force and the involvement of the UK government, and particularly the task force, has helped us achieve some of the funding that the Chief Executive has obviously mentioned. I do think it helped us become a priority for the Glasgow City region, which has then led to additional investment coming our way and hopefully further additional investment. But that objective of trying to secure, whether it be £70 million or a significant amount of money to address those challenges, I think so far we haven't been successful. And I think part of the frustration is probably that the forum in which the task force was meeting was perhaps not the right forum to have frank discussions, I have to say. There was a cast of thousands, I exaggerate somewhat, but there's lots of people around the virtual table normally, and quite a lot of people don't say much around that virtual table, I have to say. And I do think that probably allowed things to drift a bit. And I do think that the new structure that we've introduced will allow frank discussions to take place both at an officer level and at a political level. I believe the officers group meeting was it today? First meeting of the officers group, and the first meeting of the political group will be in December. And I do think we won't be slow. I'm sure I can speak for Councillor Curley. We won't be slow in pushing Inverclyde's case, and I would hope the MSP and the MP, I'm sure, will push that case as well. And I think we need to obviously keep pushing the case for Inverclyde. We've obviously got some reasonably good news recently. We've been awarded £1.5 million further funding from the UK government. And I just think we need to keep pushing both the UK and the Scottish government to recognise that Inverclyde is a priority and should be a priority. And it is a priority for the Glasgow City region now, and therefore it should be a priority for both governments. And hopefully this new structure to the task force will allow us to achieve that end.
Thank you, Councillor McCabe. Councillor Jackson?
Yeah, thanks, Provost. It's pretty obvious from Stuart and Stephen's response that he's disappointed with the UK and the Scottish Government's lack of engagement and commitment, lack of urgency given the troubles that Inverclyde have. I suppose the question I would have is, why do you think they've been so lacking in coming forward in supporting you, and are you confident that these changes that you've made will get them to re-engage in a more practical way to support their economic aspirations? It is very disappointing to learn that after 3 years that both governments have failed to engage in a way that both council officers and the council leader would have hoped they would. So that's all that is, Provost.
Go to Councillor.
Yeah, I'm happy to take one. I think you have been a bit unfair in the UK government. I'm absolutely trying not to be part of the political, because for most of the period in the life of the task force, it was a Tory government in Westminster, and I have to say that the engagement we have had with both the Minister, Lord offered, and with civil servants has been very, very good. And I think that good relationship has continued under the current government. I think the frustration has largely been with the Scottish government, with the lack of engagement from civil servants and, frankly, changing ministers. And we kept coming against, there isn't a big pot of money to give to Inverclyde. And then we look at big pots of money that came for Grangemouth, and we look at big pots of money that have now just recently been offered to Alexander Dennis in terms of the bus company in Falkirk. And as I said, I don't want to be party political, but I think simply the reality is that up to now, I don't think Inverclyde has been seen as a priority by the Scottish Government. And both through the task force and directly representations being made by myself and the chief executives past and present, I think we've made the case that the Glasgow City region, who've heard this loud and clear, and the evidence has been presented at the Glasgow City region, helped by, I have to say, the Glasgow City region's intelligence hub as well. And when you look at Inverclyde compared to most of the other areas within the region, the contrast is stark. And a lot of the investment that has come through the sort of national funding streams that have went to the city region, we've not benefited from that, largely in part because we don't have a university based in Inverclyde. And I think they've now recognised that while overall the region benefits from the various investments from the UK government and the Scottish government, it's not filtering down to someone like Inverclyde. And there needs to be a special case for Inverclyde. And in the most recent meeting of the Glasgow City Region Cabinet, we had an action plan approved, which will feed into the regional action plan. And there's a number of actions on there which will be progressing over the coming years. But we also made the case at the Glasgow City Region that we need to see more action from the national and regional agencies. We need to see Scottish enterprise step up, for example, for Inverclyde, and we've not yet seen that. And I generally don't know whether through this new structure we actually will get the Scottish Government in particular to recognise Inverclyde as a priority. But I think it certainly gives us a better chance of having those frank discussions behind the scenes rather than necessarily in a more public forum like the previous structure of the task force. But we will continue to make the case. But in the life of the task force, there has been a lot of positive things happening. There's been a lot of investment, but fundamentally, the government, the Scottish government in particular, hasn't addressed the fact that we've lost over 1,200 jobs in that period. And where was the money for Inverclyde when Amazon closed? Where was the money for Inverclyde when the EE sent 300 jobs up the road? We've not received that funding, and so we will continue to make that case. And obviously later on in the agenda, we will have a discussion with one of our other major important employers as well.
Thank you, Councillor Pearce. Councillor Thurlock.
I think going back to Councillor McVeigh's first point, I'm a recent member of the task force. I attended one meeting, but I'll give you some of the comments. My experience of it was a lot of talking heads on the screen. So I think the new opportunity, the new way of doing things, hopefully we'll be able to do that. I think one of the things that it has identified some significant asks of government in a difficult time. I am disappointed as everybody else is that there's not really an opportunity to do that. But we look at the situation when we've got the £70 million asks, a lot of it centred around Port Glasgow, as we know. The industrial estate, 25 million, and the local water, 25 million, as the chair of the Port Glasgow Town Centre Regeneration Forum, keen to see that kind of investment. But we've got these identified. There are, using terminology, shovel-ready ideas. So if somebody says, what do you need to do in Inverclyde? We can say straight away, this is what we need to do. We're not looking around for these ideas. We've done the work, we've got the ideas to go ahead. I don't want to conflate the two issues, but we do have a situation that later on, as Councillor McCable said, we'll be discussing Ferguson's. There has been significant investment in Ferguson's from the Scottish Government during that period. That has saved the yard, it's nationalised the yard, It's not, a lot of that money has unfortunately been used to what they got to deal with the situation by the Stanix. By the time we'll come into that discussion here, but there is a commitment from the Scottish Government to spend certain amount of money and capital on improving the yard, and that will have a big impact on both the yard and what we can then do to entice other investment into the area as well. So I think it's unfortunate we have a situation where we haven't been able to meet those task force asks. The asks are still there, still relevant, still current, and we still want to get them on the table.
Thank you, Councillor Curley. Councillor
I thank Provost. It's just I went on a seminar with Councillor Cully and Cassidy, the Clyde Metro. I know it's a 20-year project, but we were very disappointed because the Metro is stopped at Bishopton. It's not even coming to Inverclyde. Now, what message does that send out to the rest of Scotland and to the greater Glasgow Clyde that the Metro, this is the way forward, only goes to Bishopton? I think that's wrong. I think they should look at that again and make that Metro run to Gourock, not stop at Bishopton.
Thank you, Councillor Moran. Mr. Jimmerson, do you want to summarise or come in any of the points that we made here?
Through you, Provost, that the points have been covered by members. Councillor Armstrong, I think, wants in.
Councillor Armstrong.
Thank you, Provost. It's in relation to point 3.6 and the funds that are mentioned here. Am I right in thinking that these have shrunk or are shrinking in comparison with the EU predecessors? Am I right in thinking that? Thank you.
Joseph.
Through you, Provost, there are 3 funds listed there, Councillor Armstrong. It would be difficult to make a direct comparison between European structural funds and what we've got. You'll recognise that the Shared Prosperity Fund is an intervention as part of a replacement to the European structural funds, but also recognising that the £1.55 million that we got this year through the Shared Prosperity Fund is part of an allocation to the Glasgow City region as opposed to directly to Inverclyde. So that's why I'm hesitant about saying that the funds have shrunk.
Thank you.
Can we note the contents of the report? Thank you. Item 5 on the agenda is the remit from the committee. Treasury Management Annual Report 24-25. This is a remit from the Policy and Resources Committee. Mrs. Brown, please.
Thank you, Provost. Yes, so this is a remit from the Policy and Resources Committee on the 12th of August, and Council has asked to approve the recommendations within the report.
Thank you. The Council has asked to approve the operation of the Treasury function and its activities for 24-25 required in terms of Treasury Management Practice 6 on reporting requirements and management information arrangements. Can we approve these recommendations? Councillor Property wishes to speak.
Yeah, thanks. I don't want to let Councillor Kate down with not asking that question on Treasury Management. I don't want to spoil my lifetime's worth of work. Can I ask, I just want to try and get my head around the whole prudential Treasury indicators. You know that it's on page 55 where it would look as if we've increased by £10 million. And you've got the note 2 in there. But, sorry, I know this may be a bit, but in the next page, what we've got is we've got that split down into 173 million and 72 million. I suppose the question is maybe a wee bit further explanation of how you've got it at note 2 in layman's terms, what that actually means to us. And also, am I right to say that when you've got that 10 million, it really reflects to the 72 million on page 56, if that makes sense? I don't know if it does, but hopefully our Treasury team will be able to decipher my attempt to ask the question.
Through your convener, I'll try and make an attempt to answer. Obviously, there's a mix of figures in there, and probably the presentation isn't easy to understand because there's a mix of external borrowing, internal borrowing, and obviously an impact on the figures this time due to the implementation of the accounting treatment for IFRS 16, and that has impacted on the borrowing levels. It looks like we're borrowing more money when we actually aren't. It's just about the accounting treatment and how we changed that. Kevin is our expert on actually the breakdown, and he produces this figure. So yeah, the 246,000, which has a total figure for the 173 and 72 million, that is our total debt basically for the end of March 2025. There's an element of that that is funded from external, which you then tie on to the appendix 3.18 is 224,000. That's how much we've actually borrowed against that 246, with the remainder of being internal borrowing, if that makes any sense, and if I'm helping by answering this question. The 10 million that we refer to as the new borrowing is the upper limits for the period, is what they can actually borrow for that period. So although our borrowing has been our physical borrowing has went down in year in what we've had to borrow, but it looks like we need to borrow more because of IFRS 16. Am I helping?
Absolutely clear. I'll explain it to council.
If I can take anything offline to help, I'll certainly do that.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Fogarty. Can we now be asked to approve the operation of the Treasury function? Thank you.
Good.
Item 6 in the agenda, page 65, is a notice of motion that I bring to this council. The notice of motion is on page 66 and regards the direct award of the ferry to replace the MV Lord Styles to Ferguson's shipyard in Port Glasgow. Cannot be denied, members, that over the past few years, the reputation of Ferguson's shipyard has been greatly tarnished. The reputation of Port Glasgow and also Inverclyde, with the situation regarding the two ferries that have just been built. They had difficulties, which is well documented. But as we emerge from this testing time, the fact is that the last surviving shipyard in the Lower Clyde has no or very little work, nothing in the pipeline. And yet there is this work out there to be had, work that can start almost immediately. It's a matter of common sense. This is not a time for anyone finding a reason wrapped up in legal jargon that says that this new ferry order should not be placed anywhere but Port Glasgow. Inverclyde is very well placed here. In Inverclyde, we have 3 companies, all owned by the Scottish Government. We have CMAL, who commission and own ferries and own the ports and harbours throughout the West Coast, and they own the infrastructure necessary to operate these vital ferries. We have Ferguson Marine, who build ferries, and we have Calmac, who operate these ferries. All the companies based here in Inverclyde. Leaving current procurement rules aside, it's quite unbelievable that the new planned ferry should be built anywhere else but at Ferguson's in Port Glasgow. And there are precedents that do allow this to be able to happen. This will be a ferry that will be built at a price agreeable to all. It'll be a ferry that will be delivered on time, like they always were. And it should be a ferry that, where the order has been placed, a significant value of social weighting must be taken into account. Ferguson's shipyard, of course, requires investment, requires further investment. And the Scottish Government have made signals that they are willing to invest in this yard, and they have the money seemingly set aside for that investment. and a proper management team needs to be in place to take the yard forward. But this order placement should not just be seen as a one-off, far from it. My friend Alec Logan, one of the union leaders at Fergus, is a man with a lifetime experience in the industry. He came out with the expression recently that resonated with me, that Fergus's should be a ferry factory. And why not? Quite simply, it means that every ferry serving the Western Isles being built, serviced, and maintained here in Inverclyde. We in this chamber don't want this Ferguson's to survive. We don't want it to jump from contract to contract. We want an expanse of Ferguson's. There is some room for expansion on site, but not much. But only a mile down the road, we have the infrastructure well in place now at the new Inchgreen Marine Park, where Ferguson's or any other marine engineering company will be welcomed to re-expand this traditional industry on the Lower Clyde, where a facility can be provided to train our young apprentices in the modern techniques of our traditional trades. Shipbuilding here on the Lower Clyde still has great potential. And members, supporting this motion will be our first step on our journey back. Our first step, and the second step will be a positive response from the Scottish Government. This motion I present to you, and I ask you for your support, and I will go to the Leader of the Council who will second this motion.
Thank you, Provost, and thank you for bringing the motion before the council. I know one of the asked to support the public letter that the GMB organised in association with the workforce. I was glad to see that we signed it on a cross-party basis, which indicates that there is cross-party support. I think it is important that all of the councillors represented in the council get the opportunity to support this campaign, and the council, indeed as a body, endorses the campaign and uses, within reason, the resources of the council to support it. I think we all know the importance of Ferguson's to this community, both in terms of jobs and apprenticeships, and I happen to have a couple of my nephews and great-nephews who've served apprenticeships or serving apprenticeships in Ferguson. But also I have to say, in terms of the identity of our community as a shipbuilding community, we simply don't want to lose that identity, and we cannot afford therefore to lose this yard. And let's be clear, the future of this yard is at stake. There is a very real risk that that yard will close. It does obviously have some work in finishing the second of the ferries, and it's getting much welcome subcontract work from BA Systems in terms of the warships being procured by the MOD for the British Navy. But there is no guarantee that that will be sufficient work to keep the yard going. I remember being involved in discussions with Derek Mackay, who was the then Transport Minister at the time that the yard was nationalised, and there were actually mixed views in terms of whether the yard should be nationalised. I know one of Chris Furley's predecessors, Chris McElhenney, was vehemently opposed to the nationalisation of the yard and didn't feel that was the right decision. And I think there was mixed views among the workforce, but ultimately the government made the decision and nationalised the yard. So for better or worse, that decision was taken, and we are where we are. I wouldn't necessarily say the yard has flourished today under Scottish Government ownership, but it's still here, it's still open, and there is that promise of investment in the yard, but that investment has been promised for 2 years, I have to say, and it certainly is something that needs to be delivered sooner rather than later if the yard is going to be competitive. There is, in my opinion, a moral responsibility on the part of the Scottish Government to the workforce, because they did nationalise the yard. They were involved in, and when the yard first went into administration back in 2014, they were involved in facilitating the new ownership of the yard at that time. I think they've got a moral responsibility to the workforce and indeed to this community to secure its future. And we've seen, obviously, in recent years that the yard either hasn't been allowed to bid for particular contracts or hasn't been successful in bidding for those contracts. And I suppose we know it's up against competition from foreign yards, which I'm led to believe by the trade unions are subsidised by the taxpayers in those countries. And there are questions about the size of the ships that the yard can build. But we know it can build and has built successfully ferries of the size of the Lord of the Isles. And I think that's why the trade unions are asking for this direct award. Ferguson built that ship. It was launched in Ferguson's in 1989, and they are arguably in a better position today than they were in 1989. The yard has had significant investment. It's expanded. It still needs obviously that investment to address some of the inefficiencies that are in the yard, but I think it's more than capable of building that ship. And I think in the short term, that is the best way to secure the future of the yard, to allow it to rebuild its reputation, which has been absolutely no fault of the workforce of the yard. And I think with that security of a direct award, with the opportunity to rebuild its reputation, I think it could have a successful future as a shipyard, and it could turn into that ferry conveyor belt that we're talking about. And we know, because I've previously written to ministers asking for direct awards previously, we know there are challenges around direct awards. I think we also know that there are probably political reasons for why Ferguson's wasn't given a direct award in the past. The fear and concerns are among ministers of the potential public criticism of making an award to a yard which obviously has struggled to build two huge ferries that it wasn't actually in a position to build on time and on budget. But we know direct awards can be. Just the other day, I got a letter from the Transport Cabinet Secretary for Transport, Fiona Hislop, advising me that Almac had received a direct award over the contract to operate the ferry services in the Clyde into the Hebrides. So we know it can be done. If it can be done for Calmac, it can be done for Ferguson's. And I think it's vitally important that the Cabinet makes a decision on this matter sooner rather than later, and hopefully it will make a decision to make a direct award to Ferguson's for the replacement of the MP Lord of the Isles. We are trying to work with Ferguson's, and we have tried to work with Ferguson's in the context of in-stream. We have obviously leased, the joint venture has leased quayside for them to do work in the ferries. We've been in active discussion with them about potentially using the plater shed that we were able to secure investment in as well. So discussions are ongoing, and absolutely we're committed to support Ferguson's as much as we can, but they absolutely need to be building ships, and the best way is for this direct award. So I second your motion, Provost, and I would hope that would be unanimous agreement across the council for the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McCabe. Councillor Cummings.
Thank you, Provost. I'll just reiterate a lot of comments that have been said already in the chamber. The SF Group wholeheartedly support the campaign for Ferguson's Marine to be directly awarded the contract replacement with the MP Lord of the Isles. As I said previously and many times, Ferguson is one of our key assets, which has kept skilled jobs in Inverclyde. The Glen Sannox and Glen Rosa have hit Ferguson's reputation hard. There's no doubt about that. A shipyard which previously constructed hundreds of ships, including over 1/3 of the current Calmac ferry fleet. Mistakes were made, definitely. But these were not mistakes to the workforce, and we now need to look at the future. We do need to have a reset, and I think, and our group thinks, that this direct award will be part of that reset for the reputation of Ferguson's. The yard had previously 25 million of investment. Is now publicly owned, the Scottish Government, and pledging a further 14.2 million. As it's been said, the yard is still not as efficient as it could be. So the 14.2 million plus a direct award would enable that sort of work to be undertaken. I was present at the last launch of the ship down Slipway, And of course, some of the talk about what we need to do now is actually build it to make, as you said, the ferry factory more akin to what's happening up in BA Systems with the frigate factory up there. Things have moved on, in fact, and things to move on again. To sustain the strategic national asset, and then the last commercial shipyard applied, as you say, Provost, a direct award is a logical choice, helping to bring stability and certainty to the yard while giving time for longer term investment, as we just said. Scotland's shipyard should support Scotland's ferry company to provide lifeline ferry services, and that simply is a win-win for all. So we are very pleased and we wholeheartedly support this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Connolly. Councillor Moran.
I thank Provost. I'm not about to give you a history of this report, but I will put some context to this. When I was working in the shipyard in Port Glasgow, the thing that kept us going was we're building a ship always in one eye in the future. And to that, we were down the recruitment team, we were always out trying to get work. And then you'd be working, and then you'd be told, we've got another order, BP, please start thanking for us. That was fantastic. That gave us continuity in employment. It meant we concentrate on the work in hand, and that's what we've done. But Provost, the workforce in Ferguson have not had that for years. They've been living with an anxiety for years because they've not been in a position for the recruitment is to be non-existent, to quite honest with you, Provost. So they have not had that same effect that we had when we knew that as soon as we finished this ship, we'll be starting another. So that anxiety is all coming from. A lot has been said about the BA system too, Provost. And don't get me wrong, I worked up there. I worked in Yarrows and I worked in Govan. I also worked in two shipyards when we were commercial, when we built twin hull refrigerated ships. We built North Sea ferries. I was up there during that time as well. But they've moved on from there. They're now doing completely naval work. And for the next 20 years, we're told that they're having all this work. I'm of opinion that Ferguson should not be the last commercial shipbuilding in Inverclyde. Ferguson is ideally placed to deliver these ferries. It has a workforce has got the skills, and if the right management team, they can move forward. Not just the domestic, because with all the islands out there looking for ships and getting boats, and we want to build it, but even the export as well. In conclusion, well, I'm going to say this, and I don't want to be political here. Keir Starmer's up here and says, I've delivered 20 years' work for the client in Glasgow. Between the Royal Navy and the Norwegian Navy, 20 years' work. The owners of Ferguson's is the Scottish Government. It's time they delivered the Port of Glasgow and the greater Inverclyde public. Thank you, Provost.
Thank you, Councillor Moran. Councillor Crowther, please.
Thank you, Provost. The only thing that hasn't really been mentioned so far in the Scottish Government, they keep repeating this, and that's to do with the public sector procurement, i.e. the legal framework which they have to go through. Now, there are a number of acts. It could be the Procurement Reform Scotland Act 2014, the Public Contracts Scotland Regulations 2015, Procurement Scotland Regulations 2016. That also includes concessions, which come under the Concessions Contract Scotland Regulation 2016 or Utilities Contract. But they should also be read in conjunction with the World Trade Organization Procurement Agreement. Now, while I fully support the motion that's been put forward, we also have to look at the legal framework. Is there any way that even as a council that we should be trying to look at the various regulations, and if these regulations have to be changed, that we put pressure on our own representatives to see if that is what is actually holding the government back and that these regulations be changed? I'm only throwing that in because that is constantly referred to by the Scottish Government. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Crowther. Is there any other member wishing to make a contribution? Can we agree the notice of motion, page 65? Thank you so much. Before I go to item number 7, I'll go to item number 8, business in the appendix. The minutes were approved earlier on. Does any member wish to bring out private business regarding the minute. No, thank you. And therefore, item number 7, we no longer meet as Inverclyde Council, but we meet here now as trustees of the Watt Institution. And I will go to the Corporate Director of Education, Communities and Organisational Development, Ms. Binks, please.
Thank you, Provost. So this is, as you say, a report for yourself as trustees of the Watt, and it's asking you to note that we're installing a lift in the Watt, and that's going to result in the closure for approximately 20 weeks of the Watt Institution. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Binks. Any questions from the Councillor McKee?
Yeah, it has been the case that some people have expressed a bit of concern, I have to say, about the length of the closure. And I think the report tries to explain why that's necessary, but it would maybe be helpful just to get a wee bit more on that, just the practicalities that require a closure of that length of time.
Thank you, Councillor McGee. Ms. Binks, could you elaborate on the reason for the length of time that Watt Institution will be closed?
So we had originally hoped to do it without a closure, but the installation of the lift is a big job, and also we need to put the exhibits into a safe place. So we need to protect the exhibits whilst the work is being undertaken. So that's the reason for why we have to have the closure. The length of time is simply the anticipated time that it's going to take to install the lift. Of course, people will do it as quickly as they can, but we are used to potential delays as well. So property have asked to say that the 20 weeks is a notional 20 weeks. It could possibly be extended, but of course we'll try and keep the disruption to a minimum, and we have arranged for people who use the Watt Institution and also who would want to access the any of the collections that we've put in actions to address that.
Thank you, Ms. Binks. Is there any other questions for Ms. Binks at this time? Councillor Nelson, please.
Yeah, it was just to ask about, obviously, this is within the display areas that this lift's going in. Is there going to be issues, I'm wondering, in the future when maintenance work or repairs are done? Is the institution going to be able to stay open when these things are happening?
Greg, did you get that?
No, sorry, Councillor Nelson, it broke up. I didn't hear Councillor Nelson's question.
Have another.
I'm asking you, the lift is going in with the display area of the whole institution, and I'm asking in the future, when there's repairs, breakdowns happen with lifts all the time, when there's repairs and things done, are we going to be able to stay open, or is the place going to have to close when these kind of things are going on?
My understanding is if the lift has been repaired, we wouldn't need to close in the future once it's installed. It's particularly the installation of the lift that is causing the issues, and the disruption it causes around the installation of the actual lift and accessing the Watt Institution with those parts. Once it's installed, my understanding is when it's been repaired, we would not need to close.
Thank you, Ms. Binks. Are there any other questions for Ms. Binks? Then thank you, members. Can I thank the administration team, thank officers for the preparation for this meeting, and to members, please enjoy the rest of your evening, whichever keep you. Thank you very much.